after player reaching out, patting Dak Prescott on the back, rubbing his head, giving him a hug. You can hear the crowd. Prescott extending a fist up in the air, and Prescott is in tears. This is your worst nightmare.
Badly broken ankle for Dak Prescott against the Giants in Week 5 of the 2020 season. All indications are recovery is going well. He'll be ready to go. The first problem, though, for him and the Cowboys is what will be the financial terms of the ongoing relationship between Dak Prescott and the Cowboys in 2021 and potentially beyond. So we're going to play a little true or false to discuss the Cowboys offseason, and we're going to begin with Dak Prescott. True or false, Charean? Dak will sign a new deal with the Cowboys this offseason, and not franchise tag, a new long-term contract. True or false?
I say it's true, Mike, simply because the Cowboys can't afford that franchise tag. They've got to get this done, and they've got to get it done before March 9th, with checking my calendar is next week. So each side knows what the other wants. There should be no surprises. They've been through this for almost 2 years. Get it figured out. But I do have a question for you. Let's say they don't get a deal done, okay, March 9th. Let's say, for the sake of argument, they don't franchise him. Who is going to sign him, and how much are they going to give him, considering he is coming off a couple of ankle surgeries, don't know how that ankle's going to respond, not going to be able to run till April or May? Are people interested in him? Are people giving him, Mike, $35 to $40 million a year in a long-term deal to sign him at this point?
Well, that's what I've been saying for the last year, though, because people express uncertainty as to what Dak Prescott's market value is. What's he really worth? The reason we don't know is because the Cowboys have prevented him and anyone else from finding out. Even last year, instead of using the base franchise tag, the non-exclusive tag, which would have entailed a much lower franchise tag number, far lower than $31.4 million, they use the exclusive tag that prevents anyone from talking to him, anyone from signing him, anyone from saying, yeah, we'll give up 2 first-round picks for Dak Prescott. So the Cowboys made this bet. The Cowboys are the ones who have kept us and Dak and anyone else from finding out what the market is for his services. So, hey, if the Cowboys think his market doesn't start at $37.68 million per year in new money, and that shouldn't be influenced by the reality that next year he'll make $45 million under the transition tag or $54 million if he's franchise tagged again, let him become a free agent. Let him become a free agent.
Yeah.
Let's see what's out there. Let him hit that 48-hour window where his agent, Todd France, can talk to anyone, and by the end of that 48 hours, they may realize, holy crap, there's nothing better than what the Cowboys have been offering. And, we don't really want to leave the Cowboys because being with the Cowboys, being the Cowboys quarterback, unlocks all sorts of earning potential and post-career jobs in broadcasting. And I know Dak has poo-pooed that, and I don't think the Cowboys should get a discount for it. But if all things are equal, you take that job with the Cowboys. And so we don't know what someone else would offer. That may be the only real solution here. Now, the question I would have and the concern I'd have if I was the Cowboys, if you let him hit the market, he leaves just to prove a point. But then at that point, I'd say see you later. If that's it, that's it. I just think that's a better outcome than $37.68 million, which would buy you 1 more year as a practical matter, or a long-term deal with $37.68 million this year as the leverage. That's going to drive the number up. So I just, look, I'm a big fan of guys being able to go to the market, and if we're going to have this undercurrent of, well, nobody else is going to pay him what the Cowboys would pay him, well, there's one way to find out. Let him become a free agent, and we'll see what someone else would pay him.
Yeah, and then at that point, you use the 10th overall pick, Mike, on a quarterback. You draft your quarterback of the future, and you hope he's as good or better than Dak Prescott, frankly. But, I am curious what he would get on the open market. And I'm very curious about that. I'm sure he's curious about it, too. I'm sure the Cowboys are curious about it. But I do think over the next 7 days that the Cowboys get this deal done. And I don't know why I'm so confident with this, because, like I said, they've had 2 years to do this, and they haven't gotten it done yet. But I just have a belief in Jerry. Jerry's never let a player leave who he's really wanted to keep. I mean, he's always managed to do it. Now, Dak's been the one guy who's kind of drawn the line in the sand and hadn't let Jerry get in his ear and convince him to take the deal. We've seen it done many, many times, including Des Bryant at the 11th hour after they franchise tagged him a few years ago. So who knows how this ends, Mike, but I am going to bet that the Cowboys get this done over the next week. If not the next week, they get it done before July.
And remember with DeMarcus Lawrence, he put the squeeze on the Cowboys to get a long-term deal done well before July 15. July 15 is usually the deadline. But for Dak, again, you don't want to carry $37.68 million into 2021. You want to get a lower cap number. And if you sign into a long-term deal, you will have a lower cap number for this year. Also, you don't want to use the second tag on Dak because then if you ever tag him again, let's say you do a 4-year deal, and 4 years from now, we're trying to figure out what the Cowboys are going to do next. Well, Dak would be looking at a 44% increase over his cap number for the last year of his contract because those tags stack on top of each other. So you don't want to use it the second time. You want to hold it for the next time his contract comes up because he's going to be your quarterback for another 10 or 15 years. The way that things are going for NFL quarterbacks, if you want to keep him, he's going to be a guy who has multiple additional contracts. And once you use franchise tag number 2, it makes it very difficult to ever use franchise tag number 3 because of the 44% rule. Also, this is a nuance that gets lost on a lot of fans, and the agents don't like it when I talk about this. But there is a fundamental difference between the value of a contract when it's given to a guy while he's still under his rookie deal. We get obsessed with the new money average because it's always going to be higher than the value of that new contract from the moment it's signed. There's no such thing as an extension in the NFL. They don't take your current contract and staple a new one onto the end of it. They tear up your contract and they replace it with a new one. Agents desperately want those contracts to be valued based upon the new money. Because if you look at only the new money and you run the numbers on the average, it's always going to be much more than the full value of the deal. But with Dak, you're starting off full value. And let me give you an example. Deshaun Watson's contract, new value, new money value of $39 million per year when he signed it in September. If you look at it at signing, it is $29 million. The value at signing, $29 million per year. And that's relevant here because when you're looking at Dak's deal, you get $37.6 million as your average at signing. That's just a couple million behind Patrick Mahomes, who was at $39.8 million at signing. So these are real factors that complicate this, and that we'll see whether there's any capitulation by Dak Prescott. But you know what? If I'm Dak, I'm tempted to say, I'll just go one more year at $37.68 million, and next year I'll hit the open market, and then we'll find out what I'm worth.
So are you saying true or false that they get this done before July 15th, Mike?
I think false. I think they don't get it done. And I think either they do the franchise tag again this year or they let him hit free agency and he leaves. That's what I think. But I think the more likely thing is $37.68 because, really, why would he at this point? Why would he do an about face on the approach he's taken from day one, telling the Jones family, no thank you, no thank you, no thank you, the tactics you've used with others, throwing the arm around me and saying, oh, shucks, and please see it our way. It's never worked. Why would it work all of a sudden? He's got the ultimate leverage, $37.68 million for 2021, and then a ticket to the open market next year. You're at the 10-yard line. So you can either be Daniel Jones and trip over your own 2 feet, or you can run it into the end zone. And for Dak Prescott, running it into the end zone means taking the $37.68 million.
Yeah, we'll see if that happens, Mike. This is going to play out, and we're going to know at least something next Tuesday, whether they tag him or not, whether they get a deal done or not. And then the next deadline we look at is July 15th. So we'll see what happens in the next week. If there are reports that come out that they're getting close or they're talking or whatever the case may be. But we're going to see what Dak Prescott does for next season. I do think if he plays under the tag, let's say they do tag him, I do think it's his last year in Dallas. Just like Kirk Cousins left Washington, I think Dak's headed out the door.
Then why bother? Let him walk away now. That's the thing. If your choice is $37.68 million for one more year, or let him hit the market now. If you're the Cowboys, let him hit the market now, and let's see what someone's going to pay a guy who can't run yet after breaking his ankle last year. I mean, at a certain point, you have to be ruthless about it to get the best possible deal for your team, and that may be what they have to do. All right, let's hyperdrive through these last three. True or false, Ezekiel Elliott will bounce back and live up to the contract he signed a couple of years ago?
I'm going to say false, Mike. He just hadn't looked like the same back over the last 2 years. I mean, the first 3 years of his career, he averaged over 100 yards per game. He averaged 4.7 yards per carry. The last 2 years, 75 yards per game, 4.3 yards per carry. Now, how much of that is Dallas's offensive line, which hasn't been the same over the last 2 years? There may be something to that. We may find that out this year. If Tyron Smith and Zach Martin and Lyle Collins can stay healthy, he's going to should have a good offensive line again. Maybe it's some of the offensive line. But I just don't think that Ezekiel Elliott has looked like the back that we saw the first 3 years of his career, Mike.
Yeah, I agree with you. And sometimes these guys can just burn out early in their careers, and it's hard to get back to where you were once you kind of slide off the horse. He's still great, but he's not great at the level that contract that he got would suggest. True or false, Dan Quinn was the right defensive coordinator to improve the Cowboys' defense, which was abysmal last year under Mike Nolan?
I'm going to say true because I think a lot of Dan Quinn as a defensive coordinator. I think he did great things in Seattle. He kind of brings back that Tampa 2 defense that the Cowboys played under. And in fact, were okay 2 years ago with the defense that they had. And Mike Nolan came in there and really destroyed it. I mean, they were 23rd in overall defense, 31st against the run. They just weren't very good last year. So I think he gets them better, Mike, just by what he does as a defensive coordinator, because I think an awful lot of him as a defensive coordinator. You've got to upgrade the talent, but I think the coaching's going to be better.
Always helps, too, to have another guy with head coaching experience around, to be
That's
a
right.
conscience, to be a voice, to be a counter, to be, especially when Mike McCarthy had it a little bit rough last year with the Cowboys. I think it helps having Dan Quinn to lean on. All right, last one. 2021 Cowboys will win the NFC East. True or false?
Well, I'm going to say true right now because as of today, they have the best quarterback in the division. I realize he's not signed. I get that. But taking everything into account, Dak Prescott as their quarterback, I think they have the best quarterback in the division. We don't know what Washington's going to do at that position. We don't know ultimately what Philadelphia will end up. But I'm saying right now, today, they have the best quarterback. We haven't seen a team repeat in this division, I don't think, since the division came into play, this 4-team division that it is now, the way it is now. A team has not repeated in this division, so that doesn't bode well for Washington. I don't like Philadelphia's roster based on the salary cap, that their problems that they're going to have. So I would say yes at this point, Mike.
Here's my problem. The Cowboys every year fool me into thinking that because of their talent, they're going to be better than they end up being. I picked them to be the number 1 seed in 2020. What the hell was wrong with me? So I'm going to say false. I'm going to say false just because I think the Giants are in a position to make a jump. With the Eagles, who the hell knows what's going to happen? But I like what Washington has going on, even with a quarterback change. I like Ron Rivera. I like what he's done, and I like what he can do to get the most out of that team. All you got to have is the best record of 4 teams that aren't that great, and I still think the Cowboys are away from being as great as Jerry Jones needs them to be as he tries to get back. How about just get back to an NFC Championship game? That hasn't happened since 1995.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.